All right. Now recording this meeting, just for those who don't. Let me go back to the desktop. And so when I came here to my education transcript, I rolled down to leadership development, my path. I opened it up and I said, okay, I completed my icebreaker and I'm going to go get that, checked off. And I knew I had to do the post-speech survey. So I opened it up, and of course I'm waiting for it to spin here. And when it finally came up, I mean, I went back and forth for a long time before I figured out, well, this is just lovely. That's taking, so it came up like this.
Okay.
And I'm going, well, where's my, I'm looking around, where's, like I'm trying to find, where's the assess your skills? Like where, I don't see what to do anything. Or how do I go on to the next thing or whatever? And so what I realized I had to do, I'm just going to minimize this other one for a while to see, is I had to pull this bottom part down to say, oh,
okay,
there is more to the screen, even though I thought it was large enough, but they've got so much white space here at the top. You got to make it this large before you can actually find the different things you're supposed to do for, as you're moving along. And that took me forever to figure that out because, a lot of times, right, if a screen isn't quite large enough, I don't know, somehow it seems more obvious. In this particular case, like if you see that, oh, I got to make the screen larger. But it popped up automatically small enough that it was like, it wasn't at all obvious to me, even though I knew these were going to be the kind of problems to run into.
Well,
so I just wanted to
show you that you need more screen, and you didn't have that.
Right. I mean, somehow, that, and people have commented on that before. Then the other thing is, there are a number of, I'm sure you probably have found almost all of these tutorials and such like that, that are available. And of course, it's hard to see on this picture of a picture. But when you come up, you've got pending requests, member progress, and manager tutorials that you can get into. And of course, I'm sure you've probably played around with statistics to see individual progress and who's doing what and all that. But again, I think as you probably found out, if I'm not logged in as Roman orders, I'm logged into my quote pathways club. Right. You don't see me, right? When I do the statistics. And so one thing when I was looking into this is that, besides that being the fact is that when we go to do approvals for, the levels, so just to go back to, when we go to do approvals for the levels, that when you approve it in Basecamp, when you approve it in Basecamp, that is like just for me individually. It has nothing to do with the club. So like once we have people, you're trying to get credit for the club for, different levels and such like that, you still need to go to Club Central to put that information in.
Okay.
So that everything on Basecamp is really geared towards the individual. So for example, with whatever club I'm logged into, if I belong to more than one club, I can have that VPE approve like a level. So, and then so I could have, if I still belong to CMY Biz Talkers, I could have that VPE approve, say, my level, but then say, oh no, but I'm not going to give you credit for it. I'm going to let my Roman Orders Club get credit for it, and then tell you, I got level 1 done. Go put it in Club Central so that our club can get credit for it. So those two things are really completely divorced from each other. And again, most people don't belong more to than one club, but it is good to kind of keep that in mind. Number one, then number two, to know you got 2 actions to do, so you're not at the end of the year scrambling and go, why am I not getting, or even at mid-year to say, why are we not getting credit for all these level completions? Because, you know, the two aren't connected, at least not yet, the pathways and base camp. So, and then let's see other things for base camp that I thought were interesting. Again, it talks about Club Central, you know, and that's where you go. It's not as clear just from the definition, but that's where you have to go to get things done. And again, as you know, a VPE only approves levels. The member approves the projects along the level. And in both cases, again, I think we've mentioned this before, is that if you accidentally approve a project completed or you accidentally approve a level, there is no way to undo it. I mean, you can call up Toastmasters International, but they don't have any undo button. Like once it's approved, that's it. And your only recourse is to say, well, I know I approved it, but you really still owe another project or, you know, this, that, or the other thing. So you want to be very careful about approving. And I think I might have actually, I have to go back and double check. I think I might have accidentally approved a project for myself by accident. And I gotta check that out myself. But certainly we want to make sure you don't do that for a level, because that's a big deal. So there's the glossary. Of course, you can download that. And then there's a base camp FQA. I'm sure you probably downloaded that as well. But you know, it's also something to keep in mind for the president and secretary. So I know our president and secretary are letting you do everything, but they are eligible to, and they're the only ones eligible to go in and do any kind of approvals or things like that. So it is good for them to know a little bit about doing base camp and approving stuff, because if, you know, you're out, that's the only way for, you know, something to get approved is by, you know, one of those two officers. There's only 3 people that can do it.
I think the bigger issue is that our president and our secretary are brand new, and so they
right.
I'll try to get them in there as soon as they're ready.
Yeah, because even if you're around forever, you really, I mean, although you can, you're not supposed to approve your own level, and therefore you're going to need one of them to approve your level when you get there. So they're going to need to know how to at least to go in and do that. And again, as I've mentioned over and over, you know, as far as pathways concerned, when you belong more than one club, all clubs are equal. And so your home club is whomever you logged into when you started pathways. And you can change it, you know, like just by going back to the home page and relogging in. So there isn't anything, when they talk about a home club, they don't really mean like, well, who's really your home club versus your extra club? All they mean is which club are you logged into at the time. So anytime that you're reading anything about home club, all that means is who are you logged into at the time that you're doing anything, not like there's anything special about the club itself as being your home. And then the other things that mentioned is if you do belong to more than one club, don't change your club until things are approved, because obviously if I submit it to you to be approved and I change my home club by changing in pathways, you won't be able to see it. So you know, that's the key thing. So I think it wasn't anything there. They have stopped doing back in August was the last Q&A session that Toastmasters are doing for all the pathway guides. And so they every week, even a couple times a week, you know, they had these online webinars that they would answer Q&As, and then they also, generally speaking, had a pre-canned webinar on some skill or whatever. Well, that all stopped because, you know, we were the last, you know, regions to get to get it rolled out, and so they're not doing that anymore. But all the Q&A are available that they've got, and there's, you know, a lot. And as importantly, if you will, is all the webinars that they did do, you know, are still available and will be indefinitely. So I can go in, you know, I don't know why they make it like such a secret that only the pathway guides can do it. But if there is something in particular that we want to get even more training on than the normal tutorials, you know, I do have access. I do have access to those webinars, and I can. The problem is when you go to log in, it's going to look for a pathways, you know, person's name. So even if I gave it to you, you couldn't go watch it. But I could potentially go A, look it up myself and find the answer for you, or B, we could set up a webinar here, and I would just put my phone next to the speaker, and you know, you could, you know, watch it. Watch it that way. So there is a master Q&A. I can send that back out. Again, most of the questions are ones that we've answered before. So I think, let me just check that I had a couple of notes I wanted to make. Drafts. So in terms of tutorials, of course, if you, and again, I know you've probably seen this, come on, tutorials, is they actually have, while you can do the general search up there like we've talked about before, where you can search for anything, you know, on the tutorials page, they've got one just for Basecamp Manager. And so that's where you can go look at any of them. And most of these are, video class. I shouldn't say video, you know, they're like live stream PowerPoint presentations, right? And they have embedded in them some video classes that show what's going on. So all these ones that you see over here that says external training dashboard and individual dashboard, I found that these were actually embedded in the Basecamp Manager overview. So you can certainly go to the Basecamp Manager overview, load it up, and when you go through the different steps, you can, you know, find the different ones, but you can just look for those individual online classes, you know, separately as well, including how to print certificates and, you know, stuff like that. So obviously what's nice about the videos is that it'll show you exactly where on the screen to go click and do something, and, you know, things like that, which I found to be all, all very useful. Let's see. Oh, the other thing about, when you're in Basecamp, as the Basecamp Manager, I should say, there's only one of you can be in Basecamp at a time between you, the president, and the secretary. So you can't all be there at the same time that, you know, logging in to do something. So only one of you at a time can be in there. That'd be kind of obvious, but just in case, you know, two of you are trying to do something at the same time, or you're trying to teach someone, you can't both get in at the same time. And for external training, and again, you probably know this, they're supposed to get, meaning like I'm going to go do a speech at another club, or I'm going to, you know, give a keynote speech, and I want that to count, so to speak, as one of my projects. I'm supposed to get the VPE's approval, and there is an external thing to go into, you know, to request, you know, hey, I want to get approval for doing my external training, and then, you know, once you get it done, you know, to come back to report upon that. So, so that's another one thing to keep in mind. And the other thing that I wanted, go back to my, whoops, come on, I hate this pull down. So the other thing is, when I did complete my icebreaker, I went to my feedback, and so since you're on the line in particular, is I sent you and Rick and Nancy a feedback request within my Basecamp, you know, for me, and I never heard back from anybody. So my biggest question is, did you get it?
I hadn't.
Did you get a request?
Did that? No. Should it have
so,
shown my email, or did I have to go in to check?
It should have. You should have gotten like an email notice.
Ooh.
But you could also go in and check to see if you got it.
Okay.
Because I thought between you or Rick, I thought one of you two would have responded.
Yeah.
And Nancy, I wasn't necessarily expecting so, but I was, you know, if you can read my message here, this is the test of the feedback request. You know, I've uploaded Nancy's evaluation to my portfolio. I'd like feedback from you on my icebreaker speech. Now, what's supposed to happen is once I, said to do that, or maybe I didn't. Yeah, but I thought I had to share. Oh, yeah. So there's a place for me to comment on myself. But when I did this initially, you should have gotten an email notice. And if you go in right now and you look under feedback request, you should see it maybe that way as well.
Okay,
So
I'll go search for it later. I've got a to-do here.
yeah. And I'm just pulling up this responding to feedback here. Just want to see if it has something in there like.
I would have definitely responded.
Oh yeah, I know.
I bet Rick would have too.
Right, which is why I'm confused. Maybe I did something wrong in terms of requesting the feedback.
No, I can't hear that. So.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
I don't know if you could hear any of that, but I was supposed to be able to, just like what, come on. I was supposed to be able to just go into my, type it in when I do it, share. It should have, which is what I did because it says here shared with everyone, meaning everyone I had on there.
Okay.
So somehow you should have gotten something, which is why.
I'll look for that. I'll try to find it. But
yeah, and I'm just going to open this back up and look for feedback.
It was just.
These are all searching for members. Yeah, so it says here, is it possible to receive an email or else have another box on the homepage indicate you received some feedback, some requested feedback? I don't think members will look at the feedback box with any degree of regularity, so won't know that either feedback's been requested or received. And the answer is members are encouraged to check their feedback wall on a regular basis to request feedback and reply to fellow club members' requests. So somewhere on the feedback page, you should see something about a feedback request from me. So yeah, take a look at that. I'll send an email out to you and Rick and Nancy as well, just so we can see that, and plus just so we can see where it is and say, oh, no wonder I missed it, kind of a deal. All right, well, that's all I have on that. I can go over a little bit of the mentorship stuff if you wanted. I did send some stuff out in my last email about that. And I think that I not send oh, that was that guy. No, there's another thing I had on mentoring. Oh, introduction to Toastmasters mentoring. Did I send, not that you can't download these, did I send these out to you?
I don't remember.
Or have you? Yeah, this is, of course, a level 2 project. So this is what I'm supposed to, and Rick, myself, this is what we're supposed to be doing as part of, a level 2 project when we get into that, when we get into mentoring, but you can download it now to see what the mentoring is all about. So again, this is for level 2. So while we can download the material, if you will, we can't actually do anything with it. But I'll send this out because it does give a pretty good description about what the mentoring is all about. And then I'm just going to pull up my email here. Come on. And I just want to look from last time.
I think I didn't look closely.
Yeah, that's all right. Oh yeah, I did send it in my email notes. There was another website that I found that was a pretty good one, and then the mentor program is everyone completes at level 2, and there's the prepare to mentor, then mentoring, and advanced mentoring, and at the end of that, then you've completed this path to receive certificate of proficiency. So there's like a minimum thing for doing mentoring, but if you do all of these mentoring, it doesn't advance you in the level, but you get like a certificate. It's kind of a thing on the side, almost like an award or a badge, to let you get a certificate of proficiency. So this is something that's kind of done. Part of it is done as part of level 2, but to get the certificate, you do more than that, if you will. And again, that is probably something for, particularly for experienced members, like ourselves, where it's like, yeah, we're going to go through the Pathways program, if you will, but we already can help out doing mentoring. And so, this page just kind of gives a little bit of description about, what's involved, if you will. Okay. So that was the key thing from the mentoring thing that I found, was that there's this certificate you can get, and there's a couple of other things like that, some other things you can get proficiency certificates in. It's kind of like in parallel or, a one-off from the level advancements themselves. So anything else that you want to talk about tonight?
No, not at all. I wanted to hear about the mentoring. Yeah, I was in New Mexico for my mother's 80th.
Right. Sure. Yeah. So that's David Culbertson was on last time, of course, a few weeks ago now, and he said he had done an assessment, he had picked a path, hadn't done anything further, and so I, kind of went over some stuff to help him along. Finding things on the Pathway site. So yeah, he's certainly in a position where we should get him to do an icebreaker, and certainly.
He just needs a nudge sometimes.
Right. So we just need to schedule him. I just say so. You could ask him. So would you like to do your icebreaker in the first or second meeting in October? That kind of a thing.
I'll do that.
Oh yeah, I had introduction to Toastmasters mentoring. Hang on, let me just Pathways. Give me 1 second, because he would be a good one to come on, virtual session. Oh, there it is. So in the last email I sent, if you go back and look at that, if you can find it, if not, I can resend it. But I had attachments about the mentoring program.
Oh, yeah.
So there's the introduction to mentoring, like I mentioned, that's for level 2 that you have to do that for. Then there's the catalog that describes, this was just for, not to have to do with mentoring, but this was just an easy, I did it mostly for David Culbertson, just a nice, easy thing to send people about what all the different paths are. here's the, the short description, if you will, and then there's the, course, your course curriculum to, to get your degree in, dynamic leadership, if you will. So I think this catalog is, is very useful for people getting started. And maybe, how many pages? 66 pages. We can't really print it out for people, but I would say feel free to go and send it out to all of our members and say, hey, here are the paths, all the description about what they're all about, besides going through and doing the Q&A that let you pick it, but you can even do some homework ahead of time. So when you go through and do all the questions you're supposed to, and then pick your path, and it helps you choose your path, you can say, oh yeah, then that sounds, the two choices you gave me sound about like what I thought they would come up with, if you will. So I think that's a useful thing for people to have. And then the other is this Pathways Mentor Program Guide. Well, that's just a one-page thing. So, but this tells you what you need to do. So you have to do work with someone on mentoring. You have to prepare a speech about your mentoring. You have to mentor someone for 6 months. Then you have to give a speech about that. Then you submit that, for a mentor request, so, for a thing. So basically it's just, do the initial mentoring as part of project 2, and then continue to be a mentor, over, basically a 6-month period after after you've done that. And using the guidebooks that they've got, the guidebooks that they have here and such. So that's how you can get a certificate of proficiency and such. So this is something that probably, I know Becky's trying to finish up getting her, into the regular program, her DTM. But for a couple people, it might be for her or for Nancy even, or myself, to work on, more on this mentoring aspect, particularly once we get past level 2, if you will. So anyway, that's an attachment in the last email as well. So that's really about it. They had hoped that we would all be done by now with doing these sessions, 15 sessions. Of course, I got waylaid, sidetracked on a couple of things from the past few weeks. So I'm going to try to keep to every Thursday until we get done, which is another 7 weeks, which is like the first Thursday in. So I'm going to keep trying to do that. I'm hoping that maybe Utica National or a couple of others, now that the school year is kind of starting up and clubs are getting active again and all of that, that maybe people will start to try to do it and start to have some questions and we'll have some more people online. But otherwise, I got to do 15 of these one way or another. So mentoring and base camp were two key ones I thought to do. I did one on badges once. Is there any other topic that you can think of that would be, useful to talk about or discuss?
Not right now. I had hoped that some of the newer people would be on, and they'd want to go over some of the. I assume they'd want to go over some of the earlier stuff that we've already talked about. But I don't mind listening again since I need to get pretty proficient at it.
Yeah, that's what I have to do. And so, Greg, I'm sorry, see you joined us here. I've got about 5 minutes so before we lose everybody. But Greg, I just wanted to point out, well, I guess, Greg, how's your club doing with Pathways?
We lost him, it looks like.
Oh, I lost Greg. Well, I must have had a bad connection. Oh, there
you see me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can see and hear you.
We have, I've given my icebreaker. Our educational VP has given his icebreaker. And we just have 2 new members in which need to go through this. So, but I need to get them started. We just had our meeting last night.
Okay. Yes, I saw that online. That was good. That was good. So have you gone into base camp to check yourself off for having done your icebreaker yet?
No, I haven't. Although Rob told me is the fact that it still doesn't come up because I haven't put in my evaluation yet.
Yes, right. You have to go through and do that. And that's why if we get cut off, we're going to do it again next week. But let me just show you what happened to me when I did it. Now, that's what I did at the top of the broadcast here, is I went in and said, okay, I did my icebreaker. I'm going to go in and, do my post-speech thing and then, get myself advanced for the next level. And when I did that, I launched my icebreaker, and then it came up, and you can see on my screen, I hope, I had a little window that came up, and all I could see are the questions. And I'm going, well, where? And of course, this says skills after. But when I pulled it up, it had assess your skills before. I'm going, well, where do I get the skills after? I see nothing on here. I was, all panicky. And then what I had to do was I dragged that window down, and that's where, like, go to assess your skills after and doing all the other things. So even though I knew this, having gone through some training, is I can't emphasize enough, make sure you make the window large enough to make sure there's nothing else, that is on that page, because there's very little indication that you're not seeing the whole thing, because you see all this white space around the question. It's not at all obvious that there's banner bar down here that you're missing. So just keep that in mind, that when you go to launch it, make sure you make the window large enough that you can see everything. Otherwise, you'll be like me and going, well, where the heck is everything? I can't find it. So that's the one thing that I would advise you to do. Greg, is there anything that you would like for me to go over, next time or sometime?
Thursdays are going to start at 7. They're going to start to be tough for me because I'm involved with Rotary tennis every Thursday, or most Thursdays. Okay. But what the idea is, try to start sending some of our new members. If you have a session in which we say, okay, here's what new members need to do, so it might not be the next session, but I can point them to that session.
Yeah, well, that's a good thing. So maybe what I'll do is not for next week, because everyone will have just met, but maybe I'll make in 2 weeks or something, I'll make it specially for new members, and anyone and their brother can, so to speak, log in, and it'll be more monologue than dialogue, and I'll go over what new members need to do. So kind of a refresher, and then you guys can obviously be there as well to help, know which of your members were on and stuff like that. So that's a good idea. I will do a new members and advertise it as such that way session. Okay, very good. All right, I think I'm going to lose you all here in about 30 seconds, so I appreciate you guys calling in. Anything else comes up or any of your other members have a question, let me know. As I told Elizabeth, I got them from Utica National, and so they're back online after being off for the summer, so maybe we'll get some more people interested here and getting more active now that the school year has started, if you will. So, all right, thank you all.
Okay, thanks, Scott.
Next time. All right, bye-bye.
Bye.